woodpecker.
Double doink.
Yo, BK. Paul Allen, what's going on, Brandon?
Hey, PA, how's everything in the Twin Cities? It's the first day of March Madness, so I hope plenty of people have called in sick or taken really long lunches.
Yeah, they're and I have friends, you know, who I've known for years who they either played college basketball or they just love it. Where I mean, they're taking Thursday and Friday off, then they got the weekend, and you know, a lot of people go to Vegas and plan ahead and stuff like that. But I mean, people will get like hotel rooms and stay downtown and like watch from the beginning to the end and watch the games and stuff. Do you have people like that in your life? It's a wonderful time of the year.
No, I certainly do. And maybe that's where we're spoiled, right? Because we get to not only talk about sports, we get paid to go to practices and games. And so it's one of those things where I'm just like, well, for me, it's just Thursday. You know, there's nothing going on. The Nuggets play tonight against the Knicks. The Avs play tomorrow night back at home. CU had some spring football stuff yesterday with Coach Prime and Shador. And the Broncos, you know, in a Sean Payton world, they don't do anything extra. So if and when they ever sign a real free agent, and they haven't done that yet, there's no press conferences. You meet those guys like Mike McGlinchey last year and in OTAs in late April. So for me, it's just Thursday, and I'm going to have a combo of watching it on my 4 TVs in the basement / meeting some friends maybe a little later in the afternoon, and then I'll be yelling at the TV when my Jayhawks tip it off at 8:55 Central.
This is my main man, Brandon Krisztal, somebody I met a couple of years ago while doing some radio shows for 9 to noon from the Heritage Leader, KOA, in the iHeart family. It's a heritage radio station everybody knows about. It's a flamethrower. And Brandon is a reporter that covers sports in Denver sports. At BK Denver Sports via the tweet machine, if you'd like to follow. He's really cool. At BK Denver Sports. And you touched on a fair amount of things there, but with when you said Knicks Nuggets, all right, we saw the Nuggets a couple of nights ago, and you know, against an injury-riddled Timberwolves team, thing came down to the wire. I didn't think the Nuggets ever were losing in the game, but it got more tenuous than I thought it possibly could, given the injuries. The Knicks never lose on the road despite their injuries. That's quite the contest this evening at Ball Arena.
No doubt. And I remember when the Nuggets hit a East Coast road trip, because they had a couple, both they and the Avalanche had 4 and 5, 6 gamers, like in consecutive, they overlapped. Like they were both in New York at the same time at one point. And so in late January, the Knicks actually handed the Nuggets their worst loss of the year, 122-84. And the Nuggets were mostly at full strength, maybe no Jamal Murray in that one, but they were mostly at full strength. And so I think that the Nuggets, while they might have conserved some energy, they were able to flip that switch because the T-Wolves were so undermanned. I think if it would have been 100% versus 100%, that game Tuesday would have been way different in terms of what the Nuggets would have had to do. And so I know that Michael Malone pulls the hair he has left out remaining when he sees his team just let a team come back when they're down double digits. I think what was it, 18 in the first half, and regain the lead. But I think part of it was, we've got something in store for the Knicks come Thursday. So we'll see how they respond. And like you said, the Knicks just don't lose, especially on the road. It's been pretty remarkable to see. Nonetheless, I'm not going to pick against the Nuggets at home because they just rarely lose here. And they seem to have a gear. We saw it against the Lakers on national TV a couple of weeks ago. And even against the Mavericks the other day, Sunday, they were able to creep back into the game when it's late and it matters. You run everything through Joker, and he and Jamal Murray in that 2-man game keep the Nuggets in it, if not win games.
This is he's Brandon Krisztal at BK Denver Sports, beloved BK, reporter and host at the Heritage Leader, KOA in Denver. And Brandon is, as we've mentioned before, he's been on the radio show several times. He covers everything cool, specifically in football. I mean, he's covering the Super Bowl in Vegas for a week. He's at the NFL Scouting Combine 3 times the amount of days I'm there, and I'm there like 1.5 to 2.5. So the owners' meetings next week in Orlando. Let me guess, you're going.
I will be there.
Are you kidding me? Come on.
I don't know why.
Seriously.
I don't know why they're going to Orlando for the second time in the last handful of years. The Breakers I get, because that's north of Miami. Biltmore's in Arizona. Even Orange County now with the Chargers and Rams. You have 2 teams there in SoCal. I get that. I don't know why Orlando is part of their calendar, but they will be at the Ritz. I am not getting a room for $6,000 a night at the Ritz. I will be at a nearby, I'm sure, Marriott or Hilton of sorts. I probably should book a hotel. But, yeah, I'll be in Orlando from Sunday evening through Wednesday. Goodell likely speaks Tuesday afternoon.
What so when as a high-level reporter for a high-level radio station and home for the Denver Broncos, when you go to the owners' meetings and you're doing your own show or you're firing back to Dave Logan and Alfred Williams in the afternoon, like what are you looking to accomplish? Is it just Broncos or NFL wide?
No, I think it's NFL wide because you just have access to really all of the owners, and I say access, we'll put that in quotes, but you can have a casual conversation in passing with a number of them because you realize, yes, they're all billionaires for the most part, but some of them are kind of just normal people, right? Rob Walton, the new owner of the Broncos, and he's in a lot of ways the owner in name, you would not realize this guy's one of the 10 richest people on the planet or whatever in America, whatever it may be. He doesn't have security. He just kind of walks around. And if you start talking auto racing, you can talk to him for 15, 20 minutes, no problem. But he's not the biggest football fan in the world. That being said, you know, Jerry Jones and Stephen Jones will hold court and they'll just invite anyone that wants to listen to them tell stories to sit there. And so the craziest thing, and I think I've told you about this, PA, but on the Monday night of the owners' meetings, they invite every single person that has a credential to this kind of casual happy hour dinner party. So you can be standing at the bar and Mike Tirico's there from ESPN and Bob Kraft is literally 2 people away and Clark Hunt's behind you waiting for a drink and Mike Tomlin is over talking to Sean Payton at the other side of the bar and they're just there for 3 hours and every credentialed media member is also invited. And it's the wildest thing. And I've seen people who are not, I put cool in quotes, but don't understand. Hey, keep your recorders, keep your notepads back in your hotel room or in your backpack. Just hang out and try to be normal. But it is the strangest event on the NFL calendar because to be there and quote, hobnobbing with these NFL dignitaries is pretty wild. The only person that brings security to that is Goodell, and I think that might be in part to keep some of the owners away from him.
So with the early reports or thoughts on like rule changes and stuff like that is there, you know, there are coaches, I don't know if there are owners, but there are coaches, and maybe just a handful, who, with the kickoff and the way it was constructed and everything that's changed over the years, where they're kind of like just, you know, let's start at the 25. Forget the kickoff. And boom. All right, here comes Drake May to lead the Vikings offense at the 25, as opposed to a return. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, the kickoff we know had been the most dangerous play in football, more so than the punt, as crazy as that sounds, because you only have one returner back there. But, right, for years you had 11 guys running full speed from 60 yards away, and even when you could create the wedge, that had plenty of injuries to guys that weren't the ball carrier, and then they obviously eliminated that. But it still has, while it's gone way down, still has the chance for the most injury on a random play. So I saw where it looks like they're going to potentially tweak this rule on their proposal even, and that's actually what's going on right now. The competition committee, which consists of Sean McVay and Sean McDermott, among others, Rich McKay from the Falcons has run it forever. I think John Mara and Stephen Jones might be on it as well. They're already down in Orlando. They usually get down there about a week early, and they play a bunch of golf, but they have meetings and kind of go through stuff. That's why we're seeing reports come out that they may be tweaking their tweak to the rule, that the penalty enforcement provisions could be tweaked a little bit. So I think there's going to be plenty of unintended consequences, and it's kind of convoluted. And with all of these rule changes, I'm not saying we don't want to talk about it, but let's see where they come down on it and then react. Because I remember when we had the egregious pass interference penalty in the NFC title game in New Orleans, and the Rams obviously were able to then go on and win in overtime and go to the Super Bowl. Sean Payton was at the owners' meetings literally like a politician trying to whip up votes to get that rule change, and then they realized, they kind of rushed to this new decision, and then they obviously pulled it back. So I don't get too worked up about these until we see what the final rule is going to be, but then the unintended consequences are what I'm always worried about. And for as many things as I think the NFL gets wrong, PA, I do think when they see something, they try to overcorrect, or they try to correct it quickly. Sometimes they overcorrect, but they don't let things linger and be like, oh, well, that's just the way we've always done it. If they think there's a way to make the game better, the NFL does a good job of trying to improve, especially most importantly, the on-field product.
With your beloved Broncos, why did KOA's Broncos trade Jerry Jeudy? He goes to Cleveland. Why'd they trade him?
He just didn't want to be there. Last year, I was standing with him at his locker right before the deadline, and we were asking him, hey, do you think you're going to be traded? He's like, I've been dealing with this for 2 years. If I'm here after the deadline, great. If I'm not, no big deal. And so I think he is smarter than maybe people think. I know talking to their football people, he picks up the game plan quickly. He was extremely frustrated because quarterback after quarterback, whether it was Teddy Bridgewater or Drew Lock or even Russell Wilson, he was running wide open at times and not getting the ball. Now, when the ball came his way, he had a couple of really big drops, especially in some national TV games. But he had a great stretch of 5 or 6 games at the end of the 2022 season when Cortland Sutton was on the shelf and he got to play the X position as the primary lone receiver on a single side for a lot of the play calls. And even though it was as Nathaniel Hackett's offense was crumbling, he looked great and had, I want to say, 7 touchdowns in that stretch or 5 or 6 touchdowns, whatever it was. Maybe it was even 4, but it was his most productive stretch. And people were like, oh, this is why he was taken 15th overall. Now, that was ahead of Justin Jefferson and Brandon Ayuk and even CeeDee Lamb. So I think that some people would probably want to redo that. But I don't know why the Browns gave him all this money unless they saw something in that stretch of games that they said, okay, we see why he was taken where he was. But it was just time for them to move on. If they would have traded him to the Packers at the deadline, they would have gotten a 3 and a 5 for him.
Oof. So, with the picks they got, it could be management and or the coach angling for a spot in the first round to get a quarterback. Do you see it that way?
I think all the ammo they can get is certainly that, and it's funny to watch. Every mock draft has some variation, right? And Daniel Jeremiah, who is as plugged in certainly to the prospects as anyone, he has your Vikes jumping up all the way to 4 to get J.J. McCarthy. But my favorite thing about this time of the year, and it's the lying season as it relates to free agents, but more so as it relates to who guys like. And I know you have people you trust, certainly in the Vikings building and in other buildings, just like I do. But you're always curious who's really being honest, unless you're asking about a position that's nowhere near what they need, right? If I talk to people I know with the Chiefs about quarterback, I'm going to get an honest assessment because they're pretty locked in at that spot for a while. But you see someone has a dinner and a private workout in a player's college town, and you're like, well, they must be taking him because they took him to dinner. All these teams that are in the quarterback market are going to take these guys to dinner. They're going to have them in for a top 30 visit. And I think that the Broncos, while they really need a quarterback, I don't think they wait around at 12 to get it. I know George Payton, because of his time with Rick Spielman, is a fan of moving back. We think he certainly has done that plenty, even in his time here, to pick up more draft capital. Sean Payton, when there's a player he likes, like we saw with Marcus Davenport a couple of years ago, pass rusher out of UTSA, he traded the Saints first-round pick the next year just to move up a few spots and get Davenport. So if there's a QB they like, I don't think they can get to 4, although I guess if there's a world where the Vikings can, then maybe the Broncos can. It really feels like either the Giants at 6 or even the Titans at 7 and the Falcons at 8 is probably the target range for both the Broncos and the Vikings if there's a quarterback they love and they want to get up there. The amount of capital it'll take to go from 11 to 4 or from 12 to 4 is a lot. And so I'm curious what your reaction was when you saw that DJ had the Vikings going up to 4 to get J.J. McCarthy.
No surprise. It's when you go 11-23, and it's the general manager Kwesi Adofo-Mensah was on 9 to noon to start the week Monday at 9 a.m. And when I was going down this road, he said that he confirmed there is a preferred route of attack they have. Okay, it doesn't mean they're always going to get there, but I'm not saying that there's a handshake or any kind of a wink or a nod with somebody with Arizona or New England or the Chargers or the Giants. But, it's they know what they want to do. The question is, are they going to be able to accomplish it? Thus, if they can't, well, then they have the 23. And then, you can manipulate that and some other things you have to maybe get another type of quarterback. So it's fascinating, and it's very revved up here. With what's transpiring this offseason with the Vikings. They make a free agent move every 12 hours. We got something called Grugier Hill and Jihad Ward here like yesterday. I've probably made 3 more since we started the show today. And then we get the draft, and we're 11. The Broncos are 12. The Raiders are 13. They're all quarterback needy. Eventually, the Jets in front of the Vikings are going to be quarterback needy. The Atlanta, just the way you laid everything out, it's just super fascinating. And speaking of quarterbacks, Shedeur Sanders, Dion's kid, he'll be in the draft next year. What do you think about Shedeur and the National Football League?
I think that he will come in as ready-made as a QB that you've seen in a while. The only knock on him, well, last year I guess there were a couple, but the only physical limitation is that it appears that he got his speed from his mom and not his dad, because if he got it from his dad, he'd be the next Lamar Jackson. And I actually said that to him at the Super Bowl, and he kind of looked at me crossways, and I'm like, okay, dude, you run south of 4.6, and I'll reevaluate this. But beyond that, he's really smart. He spends a lot of time, I think almost all of his free time when you don't see him on camera. I think he's in the coach's office and in his quarterback room with Pat Shurmur before Pat was fully on the staff, and probably with Pat and other assistants now when he's allowed to be. College has all these wonky rules, and his dad, because of who he is, has given him access to guys like Tom Brady and so many high-level football minds and great quarterbacks. The kid has all of the physical tools as a thrower in terms of his vision and his size, and his back is healthy. He had a little bit of back surgery, and I know, is there ever such thing as a little bit of back surgery? But right. He says he feels bigger and stronger a little bit right now. They brought in 8 new linemen, including the highest recruited high school lineman in high school player in the history of CU when you take Travis Hunter out of it, because he wasn't recruited directly to Colorado. This kid, Jordan Seaton, who came from IMG, who had every school from Ohio State to Michigan and everywhere in between wanting him, he's coming to Boulder, and a bunch of upperclassmen that have played upwards of 20 plus 30 games at different schools in Power 5 conferences. So he will be more protected. He's still got Hunter. He's still got backs out of the backfield and a couple of really dangerous targets. So I expect Shedeur to be in the Heisman mix. The Big 12 will be easier than his road in the Pac-12 this year. And there's no reason as it stands now that he won't be the first quarterback a year from now, but we know these things can change.
Marathon segment with beloved BK from the Heritage Leader KOA out there Denver way at BK Denver Sports via X or Twitter at BK Denver Sports is where you can follow him. It's a long form chat because that market has 4 pro sports teams and some cool college teams too, including a basketball team that's in the NCAA tournament.
Two of them.
Right.
Colorado and Colorado State.
Right. Colorado State for sure. Colorado State actually was pretty good. I'm not saying Colorado wasn't, but Colorado State's pretty good, right?
They are, and they're led by a kid named Isaiah Stevens, who's a Minnesota product, and he's their all-time leading scorer, came back to school. He probably would have been a second-round pick last year, maybe a second-round pick this year, but the first 3,000-point scorer, and then they have some transfers around him that are kids that were from Colorado. The Division II Player of the Year transferred in. He led him in scoring the other night, and then a kid named Nick Clifford came over from Colorado. And so they'll give Texas a run for their money, and in my bracket, which nobody cares about, I have them beating the Longhorns, even though my whole family went to UT, and I grew up a Longhorn fan. I think CSU wins the game. I think Colorado beats Florida. I think there's an advantage in playing in that first 4, and it's a great environment there in Dayton. So, yeah, it's a fun time to be a sports fan here in Colorado, except that if Jarrett Stidham is the Broncos quarterback and there's not a rookie drafted in the first round, it's going to be some sad times here in Broncos country. Oh, and by the way, they do have a baseball team. I guess it's professional in the Rockies, but we're not sure if they really play pro ball.
Well, Stidham's better than everybody thinks. Okay, he always has been, but he's just not good enough to. I understand what you're saying, but
he's like doesn't he remind you of Chase Daniel a little bit, maybe even a touch above that, but a guy that you're going to be happy with as your backup, but you don't want him being your down in down out season day one starter. Is the sense I get.
But you know the steam is good. I mean, the anti-Vike wants J.J. McCarthy, and he's going to do everything he can to get him. And now all of a sudden he's got to deal with Kwesi, who has 11 and 23.
Right, more ammo.
Yeah, and the Cardinals, they have 6 picks in the first 90 picks. All right, so
what about the Jets too? You mentioned the Jets. Get Aaron Rodgers more weapons to give right now.
But I'm talking about. I mean, you got to get if you want to get Drake May, and that's my preference over J.J. McCarthy.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, either one seems to be cool for somebody who doesn't watch a ton of it. Just going off, what I hear into the combine, at the combine, after the combine, stuff like that. So
and just the excitement of that rookie quarterback, right? When's the last time Minnesota had the rookie quarterback that they loved? I guess it was Teddy.
Yes. Yeah, Teddy would be in that. But I mean, this is in the 3rd year for the general manager. I mean, this is massive. I mean, it's the underplayed part of what Kwesi has had to do here was getting the roster younger and fixing salary cap situations so you can every single day bring in 2 new free agents, even if it's for a ham sandwich or $10 million a year. They're in that position. Guess what? Next year, with Cousins gone, assuming they have Jefferson re-signed, because I believe they will before the 2025 season, they're going to have JJ re-signed, and I bet you they're going to have 75 to 100 million under the cap. So, that part's starting to turn around for the Vikings, and that's why you see all these free agents here. But in the chamber, a lot of bullets have been fired. But the silver bullet needs to be the quarterback. That is the beast to slay. And it's going to happen 5 weeks from today, or it could happen. So it's super exciting.
Yeah, I know. And you look at just the names. I mean, Aaron Jones coming over. Now you can cheer for him. Blake Cashman, obviously, a tackling machine.
Mm-hmm.
Van Ginkel, you saw plenty of him when he was healthy. Sam Darnold doesn't move the needle for me, but he can keep the train on the tracks and get that rookie ready. Dan Feeney, who's obviously a Midwest guy there too, right? I mean, it's just been nonstop. Shaq Griffin, you just keep going down the list. And I was hoping my guy Dalton Risner would be back there, but I guess we'll find out.
How
later.
about that? I mean, and I think Dalton fired his agent. Okay, that's at least what I had heard somewhere within the last week. In fact, I'm pretty sure he has. And so, like Ezra Cleveland, former Vikings guard. All right, he gets hurt. Dalton gets used. Dalton plays better than Ezra. Ezra gets traded to Jacksonville. And Ezra, who's pretty good at what he does, he gets a new deal with Jacksonville that has $14 million guaranteed. So now you can read between the lines here. If I'm Dalton in his representation, I'm looking at that as the starting point, whether I go down a little or up a little. But nevertheless, I thought it was going to go bang, bang. You know, at least I was hoping it would go bang, bang, and Risner would be back here. But nothing, man. It's crickets. Did something like this ever happen in Denver? Probably not, right?
Well, I mean, it happened with Dalton Risner last year, but we knew that they were maybe going to move on from him. And because of the situation with, like you just mentioned, the way he came in, and I think how he was able to find his footing with the young guys, with the old guys, maybe tone down some of his leadership qualities and how vocal he was, but just fit in, right? It's kind of the old, the LeBron line about Kevin Love. Don't worry about, what he said, fitting out, worry about fitting in, or what, I'm paraphrasing. And I thought Dalton made a lot of sense in talking to folks I know with the Vikings. They liked what they got from him. And so, I think that maybe there's a world where he's back, but it's odd to me that the Vikings didn't, like you said, bang, bang, re-sign him. And so I'm not sure what they're waiting for. But I guess every day that he's not re-signed is actually maybe better for the Vikings because I know he really liked his time there.
Yeah, it's got to be a cash thing because I know O'Connell liked how he played last year. So, and a lot of it comes down to that. Hey, we'll work on a good day to call you next week when you're in Orlando for the owners' meetings. And thank you for becoming kind of the unofficial official NFL-wide reporter for the 9 to Noon Love Covenant. You're fantastic at what you do, man. I look forward to seeing you next time when I'm out there, and have a wonderful weekend. All right, BK?
Thanks, PA, and to you and all your listeners, enjoy the madness.
Yep, for sure. It's underway. That's Brandon Krisztal at BK Denver Sports. Brandon Krisztal at BK Denver Sports. Indeed. Agreed. Proceed to smoke teams in the NCAA tournament. Michigan State 8, Mississippi State 4. 4.5 minutes into the game, we're watching to start NCAA tournament. It's all about the glass slipper and March Madness and Cinderella and upsets and usurping and ones becoming ones and done and or winning the NCAA tournament. College basketball is in the air and some root for Michigan State. Wish he was on my fantasy basketball team. He already has 3 steals. We're 4.5 minutes into this thing. Wes Walls of the hockey variety, Western Canada go crazy. He'd look at this Michigan State, Mississippi State game, and beloved Wesley would be like, PA, Bud, I love the NCAA tournament, but I just can't understand why scores stay stuck so long. Like Michigan State 9, Mississippi State 8. It's been the same score for 10 minutes.
I always love that one.
Wes, those are the seedings. Oh, okay. You're listening to 9 to Noon. We're very much into the NCAA tournament, for we are self-proclaimed elite college basketball minds. And we're into the penultimate segment around the corner, mixing in who knows what, but we hope you enjoy it. Don't leave. But I've in playing NCAA tournament brackets, which has been the case probably for 30 some odd years for me, even if it's $1 or it's free or whatever. I've won 2 over the course of probably 25 years, or say half my life. and it was back to back. It was unbelievable. It was when Joakim Noah, Torian Green, Al Horford, and those cats played for the Florida Gators.
Oh, you rode that vibe?
2 years in a row.
Yeah.
And like Greg Oden, I think Mike Conley or Scooney Penn or whatever, they were with Ohio State. And that team was the bomb, too.
Corey Brewer was on those Florida teams,
Corey
right?
Brewer, that's who I was thinking of. I'm not even sure Horford was on the team, but Corey Brewer was. Thank you very much. It's to win the tournaments, and if you're in tournaments for cash, to win the cash, I mean, you can have the right team to win the NCAA tournament, assuming that you're in some type of a tournament pool where, like, it's 1 point for the first round, like 3 for the next, and 5 and 8 and 20, whatever. The ascension of the points is key, but it's when you don't follow it, like 9 to Noon doesn't necessarily follow it. We become, at least I do, become reliant on like these quick little preview shows or listening to people just from afar and learning. Mississippi State is Mississippi. How about this? Mississippi State 8-1 on neutral courts this year. Mississippi State trailing Michigan State on a neutral court right now, 20-8. So I mean, it's like I love it. I love watching it. I will lay around and watch a lot of it, where I won't a lot of other sports, simply because it's when you work in sports and when you work in sports and you do what we do or what I do with these jobs and everything. It's sometimes BK kind of touched on it. Sometimes it's, yes, the Vikings winning and losing. We all feel it. Timberwolves, all that. It's great. But I mean, when you have no affiliation or not in touch with anything and you don't pay close attention to it and you're learning as you go along, I really, really love that. And the NCAA basketball tournament is first and foremost for me. And it starts into the conference tournaments because those are high end too, where I'm like NC State. I mean, I haven't watched North Carolina State basketball since Derek Whittenberg played there.
I always love that one.
Since Hawkeye Whitney left DeMatha High School and shunned Maryland and Lefty Drizel and went to NC State.
I always love that one.
But I'm watching them beat Gabe Henderson and Jordan Reed's team in the ACC tournament championship. We're talking about the North Carolina Tar Heels.
Yeah.
And I'm listening to the Vox and the analysts talk about free agency in college basketball. They show this graphic of almost everybody on NC State, and they're all transfers. It's all portal. It's all NIL. And it's like the way they're explaining it, they're like, this patch of the season, they look like the 27 Yankees. Then they couldn't figure it out for a month and a half. Then this happened. Rise, fall, rise, fall. But of late, Vern, these guys have really, really put it together. and then I watch them beat North Carolina.
Yeah.
And then the obvious is going to be, well, North Carolina didn't care about it. They're going to be a 1 seed.
Yeah.
Or did they?
Ooh.
And did this little college basketball free agencies thing I don't even know what seed NC State is, have them in the Elite Eight, voxing steam in the ACC title game?
Hell yes.
Right? See, so that's the 9 to Noon route or blueprint for dummies, which would be us, of putting together NCAA brackets.
Correct.
It's like when people are like, Emily or Francie or whomever, the HR, the chief associates for bosses down the hall. Everybody hopes they never get a chance to see. Even though here it's been the case, we really get a chance. We hope to. All right, 3-2.
Emily and Francie, Jen. Remember Jen Smith back in the day?
We really hope we get a chance to see them all the time because they're unbelievably cool human beings.
And they're the only people that keep this thing actually moving forward most days.
Amen. And but those, it'll be cliche, and it's true. I've seen it. Those are the types of people who win NCAA office pools.
Correct. Yes.
Well, why's it got to be women? Oh, I can't. All right. Well, guess what? Greg Alexander, Jeff Tyler, and Mike Crusham. Well, those are the kind of people who win NCAA tournaments. Those who just don't have the time to pay attention to it, and they just fill out brackets and they just win. So all they do is win. With Max here the other day, and Max likes playing the type of music 9 to Noon prefers, and where we have weak track terrorism right now. it really what hit me the other day with weak track terrorism, unless Legret fixes it like he says he was going to do at the Wolves game the other night, is if we happen to win 6 in a row, that the Vikings, that all I want to do is, I'm going to win, and I know what I got. Are you kidding me?
Well, the cool thing is we can still do all the montages. I just have to delete them from the podcast.
Yeah, it's a metaphor. It's an analogy. So, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
For just situations, and it's like all we want to do is win. Clipping penalties. Thank you.
It is but it is just another example of the extremely litigious society that we work. It's the lawyers, my man.
What do you mean?
It's always the lawyers.
What do you mean?
Well, it's just a lot of rules are drawn up.
Very big statement to not have a backbone to it.
Well, I think that I have backbone to it. Absolutely.
I want to hear more.
We live in a very, very litigious society.
Yeah.
In which we allow the courts to decide a lot of things.
Yep.
And sometimes it works out. Sometimes we're on the bad side of it, and we make it work in the end.
And all we want to do is what? Win. No matter what we got.
I actually, to be honest, I would rather, if I had the choice, versus hearing the actual song or just hearing you and your rendition of it. I'd prefer your rendition every single time.
Oh, shut up, or I'll put you on a Skull Stories for Kids the next 3 months of your life.
You throw like 15. There's 15
Holy
too many
God.
wins in it.
Oh, there is?
Yeah, there's a lot of wins.
Why does it make you smile every time?
Because the way that you do it and your excitement and the cartoon is in full bloom, full Technicolor in front of me.
Wes Walls just sent me a text. Per a Johnny the Mouse Mickelson tweet that popped 7 minutes ago, Wes just can't believe with his office pool in the NCAA basketball tournament, it's March Madness. He's apoplectic that Wagner has taken a 15-point lead early over the Tar Heels. It's 16-1.
I always love that one.
All Wes wants to do is win, no matter.
No, he's sitting there right now. He's like, I remember Eddie Robinson back in the day, and so I just blindly picked Grambling over Purdue.
Oh.
And early on, it's paying off.
Makes sense. Eddie Robinson, football coach, Grambling college basketball team. That's how I come to... Yeah. Hey, Jay Billis, thanks for telling me Mississippi State was 8-1 on neutral courts this year. Well, the fan has learned the NCAA tournament's played on nothing but neutral courts, so I think I might have them going to the Elite Eight. They're getting murdered by 25 with an Izzo and nowhere to Gizzo, and now he knows.
Well, that's how our brackets go, though.
Wait a second. Mississippi State, steal, 3, steal, 3.
5-0 run.
Come in!
That's how our brackets go, though, because you've mentioned it. You're big in on Auburn. And I have selected Alabama as a team that I will have them upsetting North Carolina later in the tournament.
Wait for it. Alabama, highest scoring team in country.
And because they absolutely tripped over themselves the last couple of weeks as a 4 seed, I like the way that their first couple of games find them into the Sweet 16. But my point is, this is how my brackets historically go. You see the SEC and the domination, highly touted teams, the Alabamas, the Auburns, Tennessee's going to be in the mix, and all of that, Florida with a chance. I would, of course, pick a Mississippi State to go deep in the tournament. That's how it works for me.
Well, that's fine. And you never win NCAA tournament brackets, and neither do I.
No.
That's why I said I've won 2 in my life, and they were like 07 or 06. The beauty of it is I
lost to my kids last year in a house bracket.
I was on a family cruise. I think Paul Charchian was on it too with his family. And the NCAA tournament, the ship left Fort Lauderdale like the day of the Final Four, a Saturday. So now you're going to be outside Turks and Caicos or outside Jamaica Mon or Belize or wherever you are. TV reception is a little dicey when you're that far out. And I'm sitting here with these brackets and Florida and Ohio State, and I'm sitting on the entire cruise being paid. That's a long time ago, boss. Bosses, that's a long time ago. Statute of,
I thought Charch only went on the cruises where everyone puts their keys in a bowl.
I always love that one.
Picks the...
Yeah.
Anyway, March Madness.
Yep. Don't leave home without it. It's the angles that people come up with. Like, I mean, you're going to have a lot of Scotties. that have the Badgers into the Final Four because of the part of the country we're in. And Wisconsin's not bad. I'm in an elite college basketball mind. I watched them for all of 12 minutes play Illinois. And
the Big Ten tournament, yeah, they look good.
Was it Illinois?
I think they played and lost to Illinois, yeah.
I love Fred Hoiberg.
In the final, yeah.
Even though his son Jackson, at age 6, same age as my son Derek, basically ruined my son Derek's basketball career and life by me thinking for 1 second that he'd be okay on the same team as Jackson Hoiberg. And then I went to the first 3 practices. I mean, seriously, where are LeBron's kids? Are they not available? I mean, does Antonio Cromartie have like 9, 10, 11, and 12 who want to come and dunk on Derek? I didn't know if 6-year-olds could dunk.
And that's why you started an intramural team.
Yeah, right. And but I got to know Fred really well through that. I love Fred. I'm pulling for Nebraska every step of the way. I watched Auburn for a game and a half. Balanced team. Why not? 4 seed. And the preacher loves Kentucky. And stop losing to St. Peter's and St. Peters. And sooner or later, you'll be okay.
Well, how about that last year? The run St. Peter went on.
A disaster for the preacher and for the team. I'm pulling for Kentucky. Hey, all right, we don't have much time. You want to save that Shohei bit for tomorrow?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, I looked at the story. Juicy, meaty, succulent, just like you said. And a lot of people know about the story because this is the sports monopoly. Why wouldn't they? But there are some tentacles and then some potential amplification of it I'd like to get into and do that tomorrow because we're going to put a wrap on the show around the corner. You're listening to KFAN. It's all over the place, the con. It's all over the place. Where are we here with this one? YA, young Alec, see, sitting back here next to the rumble seat with my father, John, and we're talking about the NCAA tournament, see? Alec Lewis.
Roll Tide.
Yeah, Roll Tide, see? I'm Mike Price, huh? Da, niet, Roll Tide, da, niet, Roll Tide.
I always love that one.
Anyway, YA, he's all over it. He's all over every piece of subterfuge, ever to be subterfuge, ever to terfuge. And his tweet at about this time yesterday, like 1 in the afternoon yesterday.
Yeah.
Alec_Lewis, The Athletic, theathletic.com. He of the wide-eyed variety. I mean, Monday, he's supposed to be on the radio at 11 o'clock. It's 11:04. I can't find him. He's outside of Twin Cities Orthopedics Performance Center chasing dandelions.
I always love that
Picking
one.
dandelions and chasing butterflies.
I always love that
the time
one.
of his life. He's got his bib on and everything. It was beautiful. But he had a tweet. You know, this Josh McCown, the extra X amount of degrees of Josh McCown, and go ahead and mock it and make fun of it. It's 1 for 1. Right in your mugs. Pretty wild. It's from a story YA wrote. When Josh McCown, Vikings quarterbacks coach, was in the Jets quarterbacks room with Sam Darnold, now a Vikings quarterback, they would review Drake May's film together in some of their time. Oh my gosh. McCown is talking about the Jets days with Darnold and McCown and Wilson and A-Rod, the whole thing.
It's got to happen.
And Drake May's tape at North Carolina, or maybe was it a Charlotte high school, is so good. And it must have a section in it that's called like footwork for dummies.
I always love that one.
It's so good. You have professional football immortality. And yes, Josh McCown is immortality because of the longevity of his career. And Sam Darnold, before he goes to next level Shanny, in their free time, they're watching Drake May film. Yeah. Get ready. I mean,
it's meant to be.
May fades to fire, shakes the shoulders, shoots it to the left side. He's JJ, and he's gone. May, JJJ. I mean, just is starting to feel like it a little bit. Friday Football Feast tomorrow. Please listen. I'm Paul Allen. Norda will be by my side tomorrow. And best of luck with all your NCAA tournament bracket terrorism-related things. And here comes a rapper named The Con. His newest album is The Wizard of Con. It's available via Amazon right now. The Wizard of Con, here to put a wrap on the show.
Thanks as always to Casey's Rewards, Casey's Pizza. They bring you the 9 to noon show wraps. Love you, Casey's. 9 to noon, we're excited for the journey. Just to zone out to the NCAA tourney. If my wife knew what I've spent on brackets, I need a gurney. Probably have to hire Shohei Ohtani's attorney. And Izzo's team, and they had it from the tip. It's more like they're guzzling than just a Mississippi. Duquesne Dukes, oh, they're going to come storming. They're upsetting Jaron Hall and those Mormons. Betting money on those Jays from Creighton. Long run, I trust him less than DeAndre Ayton. Arizona handling Long Beach and Dan Munson. Caleb Love plays like the next Jalen Brunson. Winner like his former team, the Tar Heels. Morehead State has potty humor appeal. Speaking of which, I'm rooting for the Gamecocks. Dayton beats Nevada with just a second on the clock. Calipari and those kids from Kentucky. McNeese beats the Zags, well, just because they're lucky. Iowa State hands Jack Rabbits a loss. Tennessee salutes St. Peter's with a sign of the cross.
My ding-a-ling, my ding-a-ling.
Podcast today's Paul Allen Show, or listen back to previous show and interviews by going to the iHeartRadio app or KFAN.com.